the age of 12, my ambition was to be a gangster. To me, being a wise guy was better than being president of the United States. To be a wise guy was to own the world.
Henry Hill, portrayed by Ray Liotta in the movie Goodfellas, is a fascinating figure despite not being a notorious killer, a longtime fugitive, or a mob boss. His life was compelling enough to inspire a renowned book and a successful film. Hill witnessed everything from murders and scams to robberies and prison time, and he shared these experiences with the world. Long before the movie's release, Hill was already a marked man. However, the film's exposure of mob secrets intensified his paranoia, as it sparked an open manhunt for him by the gangsters he betrayed. The question remains, were they ever successful in finding him? Henry was one of 8 children, and with his parents struggling financially, he became involved in crime at an early age. As a child, he admired the local gangsters and often spent time at a taxi stand where he mingled with criminals. The lot was owned by Paul Barrio, a local mob boss who gave Hill his first job, entrusting him with small tasks. By 1955, Hill had dropped out of school to devote more time to the gangsters, not only to the enigmatic world they inhabited, but also to the fact that they treated him far better than his own parents did. His father, in particular, would beat him whenever he had the chance. Henry ran errands, sold cigarettes, parked cars, and assisted at the bar. He gradually grew accustomed to crime, as he was responsible and performed his assigned tasks well. Unfortunately, despite being a loyal and efficient gangster, Henry could not ascend to the top ranks of the Lucchese crime family. His mother was Sicilian, but his father was half Irish, and key mob positions were reserved for full Italians. According to mob rules, he could have been accepted, but only as a subordinate. Alternatively, Henry could have joined the Irish mob, which had no such ethnic restrictions. But he had no affinity for them and would have had to start anew. Ultimately, Henry Hill never rose to prominence in the mob, but he understood the workings and how to accomplish tasks, earning him respect for good reasons. In 1967, Henry was involved in the notorious heist at John F. Kennedy International Airport, where approximately $500,000 was stolen from a vault. A guard had informed Henry that a substantial amount of cash, between $400,000 and $700,000, would be stored in the terminal vault during his shift. The plan was simple. Henry would enter the airport pretending to have lost his luggage, seize the money, and then exit without raising any alarms. However, the challenge was that the guard who provided this tip did not have the vault key. This issue was cleverly resolved when the guard befriended a colleague who had a fondness for prostitutes. The guard arranged for his smitten co-worker to meet a prostitute at a motel. In a secretive exchange, the woman obtained the key from the head guard and passed it to the mob guard, who discreetly made a copy, while the prostitute kept the key holder distracted. With the copied key in hand, Henry Hill and Thomas DeSimone accessed the cargo hold of an Air France plane without firing a shot. Adjusted for inflation, the stolen amount is now valued at around $3 million. This audacious robbery significantly boosted Hill's standing and reputation within New York's criminal underworld. Teaming up with a few accomplices, Henry engaged in various illicit activities such as loan sharking, double booking, and trafficking in stolen goods. During this period, he began collaborating closely with 2 influential gangsters who would greatly impact his later life. These men were Jimmy Burke, portrayed by Robert De Niro in Goodfellas, and Tommy DeSimone, played by Joe Pesci. Burke started his criminal career as a car thief and earned the nickname The Gentleman for his habit of warning truck drivers before robbing them. At the same time, he was known for his violent tendencies, with rumors circulating that he had killed and dismembered his fiance's ex-boyfriend. One of his gruesome pastimes was to place his victims' infants in a refrigerator, forcing them to listen to their children's cries as they succumbed to the cold. Despite being a formidable enforcer for the mob, Jimmy was Irish and, like Henry, found it challenging to ascend the ranks within the Lucchese family. This shared obstacle, however, only strengthened their bond. The real Henry Hill later remarked that the portrayal of Tommy DeSimone in Goodfellas was 99% accurate, with the only discrepancy being that Tommy was tall, unlike the short Joe Pesci. DeSimone was as brutal and sadistic as Burke. He had a penchant for throwing darts at the faces of his adversaries and would mark his gun each time he took a life. In contrast, Henry claimed he never killed anyone. When confronted with such violence, he maintained his composure, knowing that displaying any sign of weakness could lead to dire consequences. Henry witnessed horrific acts, including murders and mutilations, yet he managed to smile and feign normalcy. Although he identified as a gangster, he insisted he possessed a conscience that set him apart from those around him. In the mid-1960s, Hill met and soon married a Jewish woman named Karen Friedman. The couple had 2 children, a son named Greg and a daughter named Gina. Greg once stated, "My father was an abuser, a thief, an alcoholic gambler, a cheater, and a drug dealer. I have absolutely nothing good to say about him." Gina initially had a better relationship with her father, but her feelings changed over time. Both Greg and Gina, who attended regular schools, found themselves having to justify their father's behavior. Hill eventually acknowledged that his children never held any affection for him. Hill's marriage to Karen was tumultuous, marked by intense love and severe disputes. However, Karen did not divorce Henry until 1989, when he was hiding from the mob. Despite having a family, Henry Hill never considered abandoning his life of crime. Rather than distancing himself, he maintained his close ties with Jimmy Bork. They traveled to Florida together to recover a substantial debt from a card player. When the player resisted paying, he was brutally assaulted. The police took an interest in the case and swiftly arrested Hill, bringing him before the federal court. Hill received a 10-year sentence, but served only 4. During his incarceration, he engaged in drug trafficking and associated with other mob members. Thanks to Paul Barrio, he was released early from prison in July 1978. The year 1978 marked the zenith of Henry's illicit endeavors. The family had a strict rule against drug dealing, yet Hill quickly established the most extensive drug distribution network across multiple states. He dealt with marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and methaqualone. Despite the huge profits, each trafficker faced severe prison sentences. Paul Barrio was aware of this and had no intention of ending his days behind bars. Should Paul learn of Henry's, Jimmy's, and Tommy's involvement, which Henry extended to the cocaine trade, their lives would be forfeit. Henry was flirting with danger. They appeared to have escalated their operations and were willing to take major risks. The Lufthansa heist remains the biggest robbery in U.S. history.
5 heavily armed and masked men today fled with an estimated $3 million in cash and $300,000 in jewelry from the Lufthansa Airlines cargo hangar at New York's Kennedy Airport.
On December 11, 1978, a group of masked gunmen confronted Kerry Whalen, a warehouse worker. They obscured his vision, assaulted him, and threatened him by claiming knowledge of his family's whereabouts. He consented to cooperate. Upon their arrival at the warehouse, the robbers intimidated the other employees and compelled them to summon the sole guard who knew the code. The warehouse employees adhered to the robbers' commands. The invaders secured the 2 bags filled with money and jewelry and made their escape in a vehicle. The robbers made off with approximately $5 million in cash, equivalent to about $18 million today, and jewelry worth $875,000, now valued at around $3 million. It was at that time the most substantial heist in the United States. The felons were jubilant. The heist was executed flawlessly. A remarkable case, truly ingenious. However, this heist marked the onset of their downfall. Crime bosses ordered Parnell Edwards, nicknamed Stax, to dispose of the truck used in the robbery. Under the influence of marijuana, Stax drove to his girlfriend's house and parked the vehicle in an incorrect spot nearby. While he was asleep the next morning, the police located the truck. Upon discovery, they confirmed the truck was stolen and towed it to an impound lot. The FBI suspected the involvement of two criminal groups in the heist, one led by John Gotti and the other by James Burke. Although operatives managed to record conversations hinting at the culprits, including a reference to a Lufthansa bag, no concrete evidence was uncovered at the time. Simultaneously, Jimmy Burke grew increasingly paranoid, and not without reason. The high-profile case was the talk of television, newspapers, the streets, and naturally the FBI. Fearing any information leak, Burke took decisive measures. Edwards, who didn't dispose of the truck promptly, was found dead at his residence. Joe Manry and Robert McMahon, co-planners of the heist, were fatally shot in the head. Martin Krugman, the wig salesman depicted in Goodfellas, met his end as well. Luis Cafra, who had indulged in a pink Cadillac for his wife post-robbery, vanished without a trace. His remains are yet to be discovered. In the ensuing 6 months, 10 individuals potentially linked to the heist's mastermind or its executors were murdered. Jimmy Burke issued death warrants for nearly all the mobsters involved in the heist. Despite their long-standing association, Tommy and his brother were soon killed, forcing Henry Hill to hide under a new identity. Henry persisted in drug dealing, inevitably leading to his arrest. In April 1980, he was apprehended during a drug transaction. Released on bail, he grew increasingly paranoid about his safety. He suspected that his own crew might eliminate him for flouting the Mafia's anti-drug laws. Eventually, he discovered that his childhood mentor, Paul Barrio, had severed ties with both him and Jimmy Burke. With time running out by the minute, Henry realized the peril he was in and opted to become an informant for the authorities. The arrest of Henry Hill turned out to be a stroke of luck for the police. Hill had grown up in the mob and knew everything. He knew how the system worked. He knew who greased the machinery. He knew where the bodies were buried. Police understood that if Henry Hill talked, they would hold the keys to a dozen arrests and indictments. Henry Hill provided vital information that led to numerous arrests and convictions. In exchange for his cooperation, he received a witness protection program and a new identity, moved to several locations, and changed his name. The result was Jimmy Burke being sentenced to 20 years in prison. 2 years later, the feds discovered that Burke had committed a brutal murder and changed his sentence to life in prison. Paul Barrio was sentenced to 4 years, but in 1985, while still in prison, he was charged with extortion, causing his sentence to be increased. He passed away on May 3rd, 1988. At the age of 73. During the filming of Goodfellas in 1990, Jimmy Burke was still incarcerated. From behind bars, he renewed his attack on Henry Hill, placing a $2 million bounty on him. The movie increased Hill's fame, complicating his efforts to remain hidden, especially after being expelled from the witness protection program due to multiple legal infractions. Jimmy Burke's death from lung cancer in 1996 did not end the pursuit of Henry Hill. Any member of the Lucchese family might have sought retribution. As such, betrayals are not easily forgotten in the criminal world. Henry Hill's final years were marked by sadness. Despite numerous attempts at rehabilitation, he could not abandon his drug and alcohol dependencies. His personal life was troubled, and he rarely appeared in public, opting to live a low-profile life. Aware that he was a target for every other gangster in New York, he anticipated a violent end. Yet, it wasn't a bullet, blade, or noose that claimed his life. On June 12, 2012, at the age of 69, heart complications were cited as the official cause of his death. Henry Hill was a notorious gangster deeply entrenched in the Mafia and organized crime, engaged in heists, narcotics trade, and rigging basketball games. His ties with the Lucchese crime family led to his involvement in numerous grave offenses, including the infamous 1978 Lufthansa heist at John F. Kennedy International Airport, which was then the largest cash robbery in American history. His life shifted dramatically when he chose to become an informant for the authorities, providing information that resulted in numerous arrests and convictions within organized crime. In exchange, he entered the Witness Protection Program and assumed a new identity to protect himself. His life story reached widespread acclaim through the book and movie Goodfellas, where Ray Liotta portrayed him. You might be curious about what happened to Thomas D. Simone. That topic will be covered in a separate chapter. Thanks if you've enjoyed the content up to this point. Please remember to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and share your thoughts. I'll see you shortly.
At the age of 12, my ambition was to be a gangster. To me, being a wise guy was better than being president of the United States. To be a wise guy was to own the world.